4, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, ni hao, bojo, konnichiwa, namaste, namaskar. Welcome to the international panel discussion. The spread of COVID-19 has shut down all the schools and colleges around the world and compelled those educational institutions and students to switch on to the online learning platforms. According to the UNICEF, an estimated of 1.54 billion children and youths are in those who are enrolled in schools and universities. Now they are staying at home owing to the COVID-19 closures. In this context, today we will discuss on a theme, a response to COVID-19 for schools around the world. Our aim is to inspire and unify the global thought and to promote and strengthen the educational practices around the world. Before I introduce you to the panelists and the commentators, let me share you the program format. At the beginning, we'll have the introduction round. After the introduction, our cheerful commentator, Chandran sir, will be speaking on the outcome of the panel discussion. Then, we will have the questions to our panelists. Today, we'll be talking on 3 issues. One is about the online learning. Next is about the curriculum. And the third one is about the evaluation pattern. After we have spoken to all the panelists, then we have our commentator, QKS President Kumar Thapa, will be commenting on the views. And to the end, again, the commentator Chandan sir will be speaking few about the outcomes. And we expect to complete our program in an hour. So once again, welcome you all in our international panel discussion, the first ever this type of discussion in the social medias and platforms like this. Now to begin with, let's have the introduction round. May I request Miss Ashu John to introduce yourself, please.
So hello everyone, a big namaste from India, and a big shout out to all the organizers, especially Niro sir here, the panelists and all the participants who have come together for this cause. My name is Ashu John and I am Principal St. Mary's Christian School, India. And I also head my non-profit organization with the name of the Ahan Foundation, which has branches in India and Canada both. So I have been working with students since the year 2003. Community outreach and social development are few things which are close to my heart. And my passion is to bring the universe, not the only world, but to bring the universe into my students' classrooms. So trust me, this COVID has given me that chance. Undoubtedly, it has come with its own challenges and threats, but it has also given us opportunity to rise, shine, invent, and discover. And I'm sure the education sector is going to be greatly benefited from the advent of education technology in the times of COVID. So I wish each one of us all the best for this panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would like to request Mr. Paul Delaney to introduce yourself, please.
Hello, namaste from the UK. Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Delaney, and I was international coordinator at a small independent girls' school in Solihull, which is near Birmingham, the second city of the United Kingdom. Our school, over the course of the last year, ceased to be. It merged with the much bigger Solihull School, where I now find myself, still thankfully as international coordinator. And I too found that there were opportunities as well as challenges provided by COVID. Obviously, it was a very strange and surreal time for us as we said goodbye to our whole school remotely. So St. Martin's was a school that had all of its end of an era celebrations done via the medium of Microsoft Teams, including all the assemblies where we said goodbye, not just to each other and to colleagues who moved on, but to an entire institution. So I'm delighted to be here. I would like to thank Niroj sir for all the work he has done to put this together, and I'm looking forward to an interesting and stimulating debate about the challenges and opportunities provided in the new world of education. Thank you.
Thank you. Now may I request Ms. Pravina Thapa to introduce herself, please.
Hello and namaste, everyone. I'm Pravina Thapa, and I am from Nepal. It's really wonderful to see all of you here. There's so much I already learned, even in our warm-up discussion earlier, while we were waiting for the session to start. I have been teaching, and I've been in the education sector for over 15 years now, and I have a specialization in general education and special education. Currently, I am the academic director and the co-founder at Premier International IB World School. It is Nepal's first IB PYP and IB MYP World School. And we've just started our 11th and 12th grade program this year amidst COVID-19. So you can imagine how much of a stressful time it is right now. I'm also one of the board of directors at Premier Education Network. And in this network, we have about 8 different educational companies. Some of them you might have heard of, especially if you're in Kathmandu. Montessori Kinderworld is a chain of Montessori preschools. We also have Nepal Montessori Training Center, Premier International Institute of Education, Junkeri Nepal, and Teach and More, which actually produces and supplies teaching and learning resources for schools and educators. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now may I request Mr. Chandrayan Shrestha to introduce himself, please.
Very good afternoon, good morning, and namaste would be the right word to say to everybody who's here. And my name, as Niroj already mentioned, is Chandrayan Shrestha, and I'm at present the principal at Malpi International School, which is a residential school a little bit away from the Kathmandu city. Apart from being the principal there, I am also volunteering in an organization called the Duke of Edinburgh International Award, which empowers young people, the youths of Nepal, not only in Nepal, but in 140 countries around the world in different activities. It's basically a youth achievement award that students, young people aspire to take up. And the other organization that I'm also associated is the Toastmasters International. I am the Vice President Education at both the Toastmasters Club and also the Division O Club Growth Director, where we have 3 areas and each area have about 4 clubs. So that is what, those are the 2 voluntary hats that I wear, apart from being a teacher at heart. And at this pandemic, at this time when we are all locked down at our homes, it is a very, very challenging time for it. And I look forward for a very, very fruitful interaction. Thank you, Niroj sir.
Thank you very much. Now it's the turn of Mr. Kumar Thapa. May I request you to introduce yourself, please.
Namaste, and thank you very much, especially to Niroj Mahajan sir. Good morning to Paul, who's in the UK, must be morning now. And if anybody there is from the UK, good afternoon to anybody from India and Nepal. And yes, like Ms. Pravina was saying, Namaste is definitely a very good way to greet. I'm very excited to be a part of this panel discussion today. Though I'm not a panelist per se, I will be working or playing the role of a commentator towards the end of this discussion. Like most of you in this room, I am also an education manager. I manage a fairly big, in the context of Nepal, school which has about 1,200 students in Kathmandu. It's called Brihaspati Vidya Sadan. I practice a blend of a bit of progressive education and a bit of traditional education models because that is only feasible at my school, though I'm very, very, in fact, extremely very influenced by what we call the progressive education models there, like Ashu Ji was saying, bringing the universe to the classroom and the opportunity that COVID-19 has given us. Wonderful, that I fully agree with. Other than that, I am also the president of a group. We have a group of schools called Quality Kathmandu Schools, and some of us here in the room are the members to it. I'm looking forward to this discussion that will unfold, moderated by Niroj Mahajan sir, and let's see how it unfolds. And I wish everybody all the best. Over to you, Niroj sir.
Thank you, everyone, for your wonderful introduction. Now, we are moving into our crux of the program. So before that, may I request Chandrayan sir to please mention the possible outcomes or expected outcomes of this panel discussion. As a commentator, what do you expect from this panel discussion? Chandrayan sir.
Thank you, Niroj sir. And as mentioned, that we are all in a different scenario altogether. With us today, we have Paul all the way from UK. We have Ashu all the way from India. We have Prabina from Nepal. And then we also have few people from different part of the world as participants, and we have few commentators. The whole idea, the aim is to inspire and unify global thoughts and to promote and strengthen the educational practice during the current pandemic situation. So basically, we will be focusing on the online classes that is happening now. That is not by choice, but by default or by compulsion, or it has been the new normal that we have to conduct the classes on the virtual platform. A discussion on that and some insight as to what is happening in UK, what is happening in India, and what are the things happening in Nepal. And also regarding, because the challenge is there, we are, on the screen, and there is a limit of a screen time for the little children. So in terms of the curriculum content, how much have we been able to achieve the curriculum that we have planned? Normally we have an academic year, and the academic year has been quite squeezed. So we are going to look at that aspect secondly. And thirdly, I think we will be looking at now, once we have given them the class, the other thing, once we've given them, we've engaged them, we've made them explore, we have assigned them, we have given them some work to be done. Finally is how we check the evaluation. So those are the three areas that we will be looking, and we will be seeing globally what has been the practice with the examples of Nepal, India, and the UK. So that is what we are expecting, our expectation from this discussion. And I will come at the end to give us a report of how we have achieved. Over to you, Niroj sir.
Thank you, Chandrayan sir. Now, to begin with, my first question to Mr. Paul Delaney. I know that in UK, you try to start your school physically from the beginning of the September, but because of some reasons, it's being heard that again the schools are compelled to close. Can you just tell us something about the online learnings, or those, what type of learnings are occurring in your country or in your school? Mr. Paul Delaney, please.
Okay, the default position is that all schools are open for all pupils. So there are live face-to-face lessons that go on. However, in every school in the UK, every year group, or in a junior school, every class is a separate bubble. So they only mix with their own year group for the entirety of the school day. Now, this means that there are staggered starts to the day, there are staggered lunch times, there are staggered breaks, so that there's no interaction between different bubbles. In secondary schools, it means that teachers move between the bubbles rather than have the pupils come to their teaching area. So that is a change. Now, when there is a confirmed case of COVID, that pupil then has to isolate at home for a period of 14 days. If there are 2 cases within any of the bubbles, the whole of the bubble has to isolate. And there's contact and trace methods that try and work out who is allowed back into school. So you have a situation where sometimes you could be teaching a class in front of you and some pupils remotely, which is done via Microsoft Teams and webcams that have just been put into every classroom. Now, this, of course, has its challenges, but if you can use a mobile device such as a tablet or a phone, you can make contact with pupils in a class and have them still work with their peers in a classroom. It means that the learning is maintained, and they can submit their tasks via the assignments function on Microsoft Teams. So it has been difficult. In some respects, I mean, obviously it's easier if they're all in. In other respects, it's easier if they're also all out, because they all get the same experience at the same time. So yes, it makes your lessons a little bit more clunky. It means that you have to spend time setting up technology because you arrive late to your classroom because it's in a different bubble. But at least people are getting an education and are getting the full timetable and the full curriculum. So we're cautiously optimistic that it is working. Currently, we have 2 year groups in isolation. One has just returned. So there is something of a stop-start feel to our school year. We've been back for a month and 3 year groups have had to isolate already, all the older ones. So that's year 11, 12 and 13, which are the GCSE and A-level exam classes. So difficult, but not impossible.
Thank you. So it seems that the education process is continuing in your country, in UK. Now, I would like to speak with Miss Pravina. I know that you are from a very good school, international school here in Nepal. So how are you maintaining those online learning platform to your students or overall to Nepalese students? How it is going in Nepal?
Thank you very much, Niroj sir. We're trying to do to the best of our abilities, and from what I gather, there are different forms of teaching and learning that's been taking place in Nepal, with schools that can manage to have students come online. They're conducting online classes, whereas in areas and schools where they're not so fortunate enough to have access to the internet, they're conducting schools via other means such as television and radio, and that's such a wonderful effort. In case of Premier International School, as you mentioned earlier, we are fortunate enough to actually be connected via internet. And I don't know if you know this or not, but we actually started online school in 2015. That was right after the massive earthquake that shook the entire nation. And we had the political and economic blockade as well, where the classes couldn't conduct as usual. So that's when we actually introduced online school to our students. And we continued online school because we wanted to be prepared for another emergency situation as right now. Also, we wanted to stay abreast of what's happening with the changes that's happening around us in terms of technological development, because blended school is the future. So we were always in touch with that. So luckily for us, we actually didn't have to miss out on any teaching and learning days. We went online, but yes, it wasn't an easy journey. It was a very difficult journey. But one thing that we did, which is very different from our online school in the previous years prior to COVID-19, was that prior to COVID-19, it was more of a supplementary program. Whereas right now, the entire school system has to go online. And for some miraculous reason, I would say, the moment we heard about COVID-19 across the world, we had this intuition that 2077 school year, that's what we call in Nepal, 2020-2021 school year, would not go online, was an intuition that we very strongly had. So we had about a month to prepare for 2077. So, we reviewed our school policies, we reviewed our teaching and learning system, we reviewed the assessment system and feedback system, and we were up and ready by the time the schools were shut down. So we very smoothly transited into online school because our students were already and our teachers were already, very comfortable with the online school system that we have. One of the major changes that we made, I would say, is a combination of synchronous and asynchronous classes for online school because, as you know, in Nepal, we can't really trust the power system. and the speed of internet. So the children can't come online as and when we have synchronous classes. So that was one major change that we made, where our students are able to access learning and be a part of the learning community, whether they are synchronously available or asynchronously. And in fact, Premier attracts a huge community of international students. So right now we have students from all over the world who are actually studying with us. We also have students from Canada. So you can imagine, we're almost opposite time zones, and they're still studying, and it hasn't really affected their opportunity to access quality education even at these times. Thank you.
Wow, good to hear all those wonderful privileges in your school. Now, let me connect with Miss Ashu John. Now, I know that India is a very big country with billions of population. That's a very massive country. So how do you connect your students in the mainstream of the school education? What are you doing to include your students, to connect your students to the learning process? Miss Ashu
So,
John.
yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Niroj. So when the pandemic struck India, and then it was a decision to shut down the schools due to as a like preventive measure. So that was a time for the transition into a new session. So we were done with the exams, students were awaiting their results. So it was like they were all excited to go into a new class and get hold of their new teachers, new books, and new friends. And suddenly came pandemic, and with it came lockdown. So it was like all the more disheartening for them. But because with the year 2012 we had already started entwining education technology into our teaching learning methodology. Like we had things like flipped classroom, language apps, and Skype sessions with the international students, and emailing the soft copies of the homework, and more such stuff. So students and teachers, and more so the families, were already given doses of hints of educational technology being used in the teaching learning methodology. So when the lockdown happened, I am equally amazed as Madam Pravina is. The teachers, they rose above the situation, and they went online virtual like this. And it was like completely like I was awestruck. Teachers who have not used computers in their lives, they were teaching virtually, and it was very special. And the parents, their enthusiasm, the students were excited to have this new platform for teaching learning. So when you say that the class sizes are high in India, undoubtedly, but the zeal to attend the class, to be there with the teachers, to make that connection is even higher. It's even greater in the teachers and in the families and the students, needless to say. So we connect with the help of Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meetings, and yeah, as ma'am said about asynchronous and synchronous teaching, like in we also have certain issues with the bandwidth, connectivity, and availability of technology in households. Suppose we have 2 or 3 children in one household, and they have only one smartphone in the house. So how are they going to take the online classes simultaneously? So we did a lot of hit and trial. Like we had different timetables, like different time zones for different classes, so that with one device maximum students can attend the online classes. Then we have the teachers make videos, and then they upload the videos on YouTube, which are backed up by telephonic conversations with the students. Then we have special evening classes for those students whose parents go to work, and they take their sons with them, and the students do not have access to technology. So we have really, bent backwards to make sure that the students of our school, they attend the online classes, and I'm so proud that almost 80 to 90% of the students are attending classes with us. And as ma'am said that we also have, different kind of sectors, like the places where the bandwidth is not so good, the places where the technology is not so good, the government is reaching out, the Central Board of Secondary Education is reaching out with the help of television, radio, and apps, so that the students do not lose even a single day of learning. So that is how we are coping up with this.
So at this regard, let me ask you a question again to Miss Asujun. Like we heard that in India, about 35% of of the curriculum is squeezed in this year. So
Yes,
normally
yes.
the curriculum is designed for a year. Then I know that in India also the schools are physically closed. So how could you manage that 1 year curriculum into the short period of time with these new platforms that you spoke about? So teachers are not very like friendly to this platform. So do you think that that 1 year curriculum could be completed within this year?
Yes, why not? And when you say that teachers are not friendly, so let me make a little correction because we are already 6 months into virtual teaching. So teachers are more friendly than we are because we don't have that practice day after day, class after class to take on sessions. So if I have to take a session on Zoom, I don't shy to tell you that I take help from my teachers. I ask them, okay, tell me what do I do now, because they are the ones who are running the show now. So I would not agree with you here. So they are quite adept. And then when the lockdown kept on extending, so the CBSC and the MHRD, they all got together and they, restructured the curriculum for the session 2020-21. And they removed the, not so important part of the curriculum. And then, as you said, 30 to 35% of the syllabus was eliminated. And by elimination, I mean that that particular portion will not be a part of the formal assessment. But yes, we can take it up creatively. We can take it up for debate, discussions, elocutions, presentations, projects, etc. So that is what we have done. And then when I talk about the reconstruction of the curriculum, so let's think about the school grades in two aspects. One is the senior grade, which is from 9th to 12th, and the other are the elementary classes from grade 1 to 8. So how they have eliminated 30% of the syllabus in grades 9 to 12, they have come out with alternative academic calendar for grades 1st to 8th, where the focus is not on the number of chapters that you are doing, but the focus is on the attainment of the learning objectives. So here where the beauty lies, the lesson plans, the teachers what they plan and how do they put it out in front of the students. That is the whole gist of the matter, because now they have to focus on the learning outcomes that they are specifically aiming to achieve. So when I talk about eliminating certain syllabus, when I talk about structuring their lesson plans in terms of greater achievement of learning outcomes, there comes the third most important thing, which is training students to be mentally and emotionally healthy when they are in the lockdown in their houses. So that has also been one of our topmost priorities. Like we give students platform for creative expression like art, music, dance, yoga, and then fitness, like the honorable PM Mr. Narendra Modi also promotes fitness quite a lot, and he leads by example, not just merely by words. So all our students have some or other kind of physical activities. So what we are doing, even though they are inside their houses, because the situation is not yet improved enough for them to venture out of their house, so we are giving them whatever we could in terms of ensuring holistic learning.
Thank you.
So
Wonderful to
that's
hear all this good thing from you. So now my question goes to Ms. Pravina Thapa. So here in Nepal also, the curriculum has been restructured. So I know that you are from a good school. As you mentioned that there are few challenges in Nepal like the power cords or the internet facilities. So do you think that that restructured curriculum could be delivered within a year to all the schools and students of Nepal? What's your opinion in this regard?
I honestly can't speak for other schools in Nepal because, as I mentioned earlier, there are schools in different, status right now. There are schools who to do, anything, and then there are schools where they're conducting classes through, mediums such as television or radio, and there are schools like us who are actually able to conduct, a proper online school. So I really can't speak for all the schools in Nepal. But in terms of my school, I would say we don't really even need to do a shortened version of the school curriculum, because as I mentioned earlier, we started as usual, and our lessons have been going as usual. We are on track. In the next 2 days, we're actually celebrating 100 days of school. It's a big moment for all of us. It's not really a problem for our school in that sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let me speak to Mr. Paul then. I know that you have a very good facility of ICT in your schools. So what about, do you think that the 1 year curriculum could be completed within this few months? Because as in your country also, you try to open the schools physically. So, but later on again, you need to close it. You are compelled to close it. And in September, again, you started the physical opening of the schools. So what do you think? Do you think the school will be able to deliver the 1 year curriculum in this remaining months? What's your opinion in this regard?
Yes, there will be a full curriculum and there'll be a full program of lessons, but external exams will be changed to allow for the fact that there hasn't been as much interaction between pupils and teachers in a live classroom setting. So, for example, in modern foreign languages, which I teach, the oral element will not be assessed in an examination face to face. It will be assessed according to an agreed set of criteria that is reviewed throughout the year. The same would be said of assessed practicals for science lessons. You could be in a situation where a school has to be teaching remotely and it wouldn't be feasible to do an assessed practical as part of an examination. But in terms of the curriculum breadth and depth, all of the criteria that were in play before will still pertain in the new system. So the examinations will go ahead and will assess the full curriculum, if not all of the skills that would have been assessed in that curriculum. So yes, breadth and depth are still there. Range of skills, while they're still present and they're still assessed, they're just not assessed formally in the same way at the end of a 2-year course.
Can you, Mr. Paul, can you tell me a little bit more? Can you elaborate? What are the different types of assessment models that you use for the students there? You are saying some criteria are there. Can you tell me a little bit more about the assessment criteria or assessment policies or assessment patterns that you use in your school or in your country?
Okay, well, I'll speak from the perspective of a language teacher. That you would assess 4 skills: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. Now, 3 of those 4 skills will still be assessed as usual. The biggest challenge, of course, is if you have a class of 20 pupils, how do you assess their speaking remotely? Listening is also actually a little bit of a problem if you have problems sharing audio material that's not just the teacher's voice. Now, there are ways of doing this online. Some work better than others, but external exam boards have to respond to these challenges and adjust their assessments accordingly. So for GCSE, which is the exam taken at 16, which allows people to go on to the next step, there will be adjustments made to the assessment program. So the speaking element of languages will now be a teacher level, where they will have to assess and keep evidence of how well a pupil speaks to an individual, to a small group, pronunciation, fluency, rather than doing a one-off recording in May and sending it to an exam board to be marked externally. So it's different. It means we have to get used to a new way of working. It means that there is a new weighting of the other skills. So instead of at 25%, they're now worth 33%. So we have to spend more of our lesson time drilling vocabulary, testing comprehension, practicing writing, whilst not neglecting the oral skill, because it's a communicative subject, and pupils need to be able to communicate. It's one of the core skills, really, that our curriculum is all about. We've also, as a school, changed the way we reward pupils. So traditionally, you would reward those who manage their learning, who are compliant, who have beautiful handwriting, who get everything right. We now we're implementing a new form of assessment where we reward other things like front-footedness, like being grounded, being independent, taking risks with your learning. So we're rewarding in terms of demonstrations of these core skills that we want people to show flexibility and the ability to adapt to a new way of working, to take initiative. Also in terms of how giving and supportive they are of their classmates in their learning, and not just their learning, in their sporting endeavours or in their charitable giving. We're just looking to build more rounded human beings rather than just ones who are good at doing academic subjects and exams. So it's, as I say, it does give us an opportunity to reevaluate what we do and what we've always done and ask, is it appropriate for the 21st century? Are we rewarding the right things, or should we be rewarding people who will be useful citizens, who will be doing jobs that don't actually exist yet when they've left school? So that's where we are.
Okay, thank you. Rewarding the people. That's a wonderful phrase. So let me speak with Ms. Pravina. Like in Nepal, mostly the assessment evaluations are paper pencil based. Now, in this context, where COVID-19 has compelled us to close all of the schools physically, so do you think that how feasible or how effective do you think that the evaluation of the students can be done online? Because like the Ministry of Education has passed a directive where the schools can evaluate the students through online or offline, or even you can promote the students in that way. So just can you elaborate more, not only in context of a school, but just thinking the arena of the whole country, Nepal, how students can be evaluated or assessed in these scenarios that we are facing here in Nepal?
Thank you so much, Neil. So this is a very interesting question. Premier looks at evaluation in a very unique way, I would say, not very unique to the rest of the world, but quite unique to Nepal. For us, evaluation of learning is not just about memorizing facts and being able to write it down in the exams. It's actually for the student to be able to not just know, but also to be able to understand what they've learned, to be able to connect what they've learned with their real life, and to be able to apply the knowledge and facts and understandings that they've developed in their real life, while at the same time also being able to apply the 21st century skills, which Paul earlier just mentioned, very important skills like creativity, problem solving skills, collaboration, communication, having the grit and the resilience to go through no matter how difficult the situation is, to have the social awareness, cultural awareness, to develop leadership skills and critical thinking skills. And these are all very important to us as a school. And these things cannot be assessed through a paper and pen examination. So what we've always done in our school is our assessments are all demonstration based. So the children are provided with a certain time, a certain kind of assignment where they have an opportunity to demonstrate their understanding, their knowledge, their skills, and the 21st century skills through application instead of just being able to write it down theoretically. Is it my internet or are we all still online?
Yeah, we are online. I can hear you. We can
still
hear
online?
You.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to give you an example. For example, when we began the school year this year, one of the units that one of my grades, I think it's grade 9, did was they actually studied about stigma, discrimination, and mental health. And for those of you in Nepal, you might know that it is one of the requirements to study in grade 9 to learn about societal stigma and discrimination and the status of mental health. So what my students of grade 9 did was they actually looked into how COVID-19 has actually aggravated the situation of stigma, discrimination, and mental health. So as a summative assessment, what they did was in small groups, they actually developed a web page in order to create public awareness about stigma, discrimination, and mental health, and also to provide people with ways to deal with it and provide them with support and online help and information to help themselves and people that they see around them who might be a victim of stigma or discrimination, or have, are starting to have mental breakdowns and mental health problems. So this one small assessment task, is enough for us as educators to see what the children know, what the children understand, and it's an opportunity for them to apply the 21st century skill of collaborating with their friends, developing that empathy towards people in their community, and thinking creatively and solving real life problems, which in Nepal right now, and I would say not just in Nepal, throughout the world, COVID-19 has aggravated the situation of mental health in people. So this is just an example, and anybody can do this. You don't have to go through the pain of examinations and writing examinations. But yes, it is a reality of our society where they have to do written examination. And as grammarians, we also have gone through that excruciating pain of going through examinations. But what we've done with our examinations is we've actually shortened it. So instead of 3-hour-long examination, we do 1.5-hour-long examination. It's conducted live online, where all the students have to come on Zoom, and we have in-school invigilators who are teachers, and at home we have at-home invigilators where one of the parents signs a contract and let us know that they are going to be at-home invigilators, just so that in case there is power outage or disruption in internet, our students can still be, the parents can let us know that they still maintain the sanctity of the examination and followed all the rules and regulations and performed the examination. We're still struggling with handwritten examination though. I wish we didn't have to do handwritten examination, because correcting handwritten work is very difficult, and it was really, really painful for all the teachers. I wish there was an easier way out, but our students do have to practice handwritten examination, because that is an important test-taking skill in the context of Nepal, as all the external examinations are done in handwritten format. So that is still a work in progress, but I wish the government could just scrap off written examinations and allow us to actually have authentic examinations in school.
Let's hope the government will soon work on this one. So let me connect with Miss Ashu John then. So in India also, I feel, please correct me in this matter as well. In India also, the certificate achievements are celebrated. That means even paper pencil tests, those standardized tests and exams are like, that's very prevalent in India as well. So now in this closure of these schools physically because of this pandemic situation, how are students evaluated or assessed in this year, Miss Ashu John?
So as you say that, I'm going to correct you again. So we have started, CBSE has long ago initiated formative assessments. Like the session is divided into 2 terms, which is like April to September term 1 and October to March term 2. So during the course of the first 6 months, the students, like, we take formative assessments in terms of, say, quizzes, polls, and peer discussions, peer assessments, like that, which form the students' learning. And if there is a scope for correction, we do it so that the student is prepared for the summative exam at the end of the term, which is the pen and paper test that you are talking about. So with the advent of lockdown, pandemic, etc., I completely agree with Mr. Paul Delaney and Madam Praveena Thapa that the focus has to be shifted from testing the students about performance and bring it on participation, bring it on effort, bring it on the resilience that they are showing, the initiative taken by them and their families to be there in the task. That is, and the teachers have to be given greater power, because they are the ones actually who are sitting face to face in front of the students and then assessing them. So I believe that teachers have to be given a greater power, and more so, as Mr. Paul rightly said, 2020 has gone down into the history of mankind, and we all have witnessed it. We are writing history. So this is one thing which I tell my students and teachers time and again, that we are writing history, and when we come out after the lockdown, we have to be, the empathetic, the loving society as much as we can be. So we are aiming to have rounded human beings and not just literates. So that is my first take on the assessments. So coming back to how we assess, so the teachers have a lot of tools to assess the students online, because assessment gives direction to any teaching learning methodology. If we are not going to assess, then the teaching learning methodology, like how will I know that what I'm trying to do with my students, whether it is beneficial for them or not, whether my students are absorbing the knowledge, whether my students are retaining the knowledge. So how would I know? And whether it is completely impossible for students to know, how and what they have learned, and that learning is the platform for future discovery. So I believe that assessment of different kind is very, very important. We should not limit only, to pen and paper test. So how we assess is, we give them case studies. We practice a lot of flipped classroom, wherein the students present the whole concept in front of their whole class, and the teacher assesses, the peers assess. So that is how, like, we have different kinds of assessment. Then we have open book test, because if the students are not in a classroom, the teacher is not in front of them, we have to discount, we have to, they would be tempted to cheat, they would be tempted to open the book. So why not give them open book assessments in the first place? Okay, open the books as much you want, but here is the question that you have to answer. So again, the beauty lies with the way the teachers prepare their questionnaires. So, what kind of thought, what kind of critical thinking will go into answering those particular questions, even if they have the book open in front of them. And as ma'am said, we practice the same thing. When it is time for summative assessment or pen and paper test, we give Google forms to the students, and the students fill in their responses, and it is immediately that they come to know what is right and what is wrong. Other than that, like as in grades 9 to 12, it is mandatory for them to manage the notebook work, because yes, they are going, the grades 10th and 12th are going to take the board examinations at the end of the year. So for them, having a notebook to fall back on when they are revising is very, very important. So we have in the Google Classroom only, what they do, they complete their classwork, they complete their homework, click the snapshot and submit it to the concerned teacher. And the teacher keeps the record, because the idea of online learning is to take everyone along the way. So the students who lack initiative, the students who lack motivation, the students who are not in the habit of maintaining notebooks and all, so we have all variety of students in the classroom. So this is the way we try to keep them up to the requirements. And then we are quite flexible when we conduct the examination. If there is network connectivity issues, if there is a power outage, so we reconduct the examination. We count on parents words, what they are telling us and what was the problem that they faced. So we do reconduct the examinations for such students. And then one thing that we have done, and the parents and students are very, very happy about it in terms of rewarding, like suppose for the smaller classes, very, very small classes, like maybe grade pre-nursery, nursery, KG, even they are online with us. So we have a shorter duration of online exchange, but yes, it is there, and the parents have welcomed it quite a lot. So what we do, we have role plays, we have poem recitation, we have wherein the students can do something, they can dress up, they can act, they can recite the poems for us. The parents record it and then they send it to us, and we showcase their work on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. And parents are so happy, they are simply elated that their work, which was limited to exchange between school and home, is now open for the world to see. And they are really taking delight that their children's work is being showcased to the world, being showcased on the social media. We had investiture ceremony online. We had we have had virtual exhibition online. We have all kinds of celebrations online. And when the students participate in these things, we add the grades into co-scholastics. So there is a balance of scholastic and co-scholastic. So that is how we are doing assessment. The future of assessment, we are planning to introduce gamification of assessment so that the students are interested. So our 6 to 8 grades have already taken up the game building app sessions. And beyond that, we have done coding classes for them. So I believe it is all going great, and the students and parents and the teachers are enjoying it. Undoubtedly, their work has increased multiple folds, but I'm sure they are enjoying it because they are the ones who are coming up with the ideas and presenting it so beautifully. So I assume that they are also enjoying it.
Thank you. It's a matter of delight for me to hear all those three panelists, where you often spoke about the advancement, about the progress, about the achievements, about the ICT acquirements, enriching your educating process or teaching, learning, everything. Thank you very much for all of you three panelists. We'll talk to you a bit while. So at this moment, let me connect with our commentator, Kumar sir. I know, Kumar sir, you are a president of a cohort of schools, that is Kathmandu Quality Schools. So you heard all our panelists here, one from UK, one from India, and one from Nepal. So as a president of those progressive schools, what is your say, what is your remark on the hearing that you did a moment before and all those sessions that we did here? Mr. Kumar sir.
Thank you, Niroj sir. I was playing the role of a very, very active listener, and I thought I was the one who got the most out of so far the discussions that we're having until now. So, first of all, my take is that we are fortunate cohort of people that are having this conversation in this room. Fortunate in the sense that we are not having to worry so much, I guess, from what I'm hearing. I'm trying to reflect, as in echo what you said. We've got the resources, we've got the connection required with the students or parents, and we've got certain support from parents. In fact, more than half the school is home, and home is offering us that support, especially not only students but also parents. And we've also been lucky, as in being able to have pretty self-motivated teachers who would love to learn, who would love to try, who would love to adapt and adjust their teaching, learning, and even assessment strategies here and there. So all in all, I found that whether be it in the UK with Paul, or India with Anshu, or in Nepal with Ms. Pravina and all of us, we are having a very similar kinds of, I felt, a very similar kinds of experiences, understanding and expectations. And at the same time, especially when I'm saying this because when we talked about challenges, we were not spending a lot of time talking about disruption and no support and no lack of resource. But then when we came to assessments, I felt probably personally the happiest because we were speaking, all the panelists were speaking loudly and clearly that let's trust our teachers and let these assessments be teacher led, because teachers are the ones who spend time with students throughout the year. In some cases, even in my school, my teachers graduate with students from this year to next year, and sometimes next year to next year as well. So when teachers spend a lot of time with their students, and when teachers do, Ms. Anshu was talking about formative assessment being practiced on CBSE board. Even in Nepal, we were to initiate this by policy this year on 2020-21 on, but some of the schools, some of us are already doing these formative assessments, and these examples that you shared wherein students basically demonstrate, like Ms. Pravina was saying, they demonstrate and we record their demonstration in terms of evidence, and we even have at times parents as witnesses to ensure that students are ethically performing or doing their bit. See, cheating could be there, and even for that, we are even allowing students. I think I've done it. Ms. Ashu was saying we are allowing them to have open book test, but then we know how to create questions, and we know we have some cross checks there. So hearing all this, I'm really happy that we are heading somewhere, and we are really living a life of adaptability and post-COVID. Hopefully there will be post-COVID world, and post-COVID we're going to have a little more empathetic society. We're going to have that ability to have concern for others a little more with bigger open arms, I would say. So all in all, a wonderful discussion we've had, and to me, um, the fact that we keep waiting for the government, or we keep waiting for somebody, some organization or some external authority to support us, is something I would not personally be seeking out as an individual, and we were not pointing at them, none of us, and that's also another positive aspect, because as a leader I do what I can, and that's the way I check myself. So this is all I wanted to share, and please carry on further, Niroj sir. I had told you a little while ago that I might have to rush to another meet. It's already 2:10. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So let me connect with Chandrayan sir now. So before, at the very beginning, you have mentioned the expected outcome. How much did you meet with your expectation? Chandrayan sir, did our panel discussion with our eminent speakers, did they give you some common global practices during this pandemic situation? Chandrayan sir?
Thank you, Niroj sir. And I'd like to thank all the panelists for their points of view on the three agendas that we had. And it has been an interesting, understanding of whether we are in the UK or in India or here in Nepal. Not just taking the example of the good schools in Nepal, but also some of the challenging schools. We are all in the same situation, and we are trying to combat this situation holistically. What I would want to comment is very quickly going by country status. As we understood that in UK, I really like the idea about the separate bubbles where students were kept, and uh, the mixed model of both the physical as well as the report learning in Microsoft Team that is done. Hats off. It's a very, very challenging task, and it would take an enormous effort for us to do both platforms together. Talking of the curriculum, there is no reduction in the curriculum in the UK. The full curriculum has been extended. And also in terms of assessment, there are some adjustments done in the GCSE that Paul mentioned about from UK. And about Nepal, really happy to know that, because we all faced this earthquake in 2015. And at that time, I'm really happy to learn that Premier International School were prepared at that point of time, running the online classes and the online preparedness. Of course, the challenges are there, like the challenges of the internet and the challenges of, the electricity going, in our country, and the synchronous and the asynchronous classes. When we talked about the curriculum, it was difficult to say about the country as a whole, but even our new curriculum has come in, and there has been some reduction, at least in the school curriculum from grade 1 to grade. I think Kumar sir has to leave. Thank you very much, Kumar sir, for your inputs. And regarding the assessment in Nepal, she talked about the 21st century skill about knowledge and skills about collaboration, communication, and creative thinking, and all those skills and knowledge that is required that we do the test. And the testing has been reduced from 3 hours to 1.5 hours. And I really like the concept of at-home invigilators, or at-home, your parents being used as invigilators. That's a wonderful and interesting way in which we can model internationally as well, making the parents, because the parents are the first teachers, and making them at this time to understand the situation and help out in whatever way that can be done. Finally, we talked about India, where teachers rose up to the situation. I think like India, even our teachers here in Nepal rose up, and they did not know of the situation at that point of time, but they took it with a stride. I would say that the teachers are the frontline workers, like the medical doctors, the nurses, the policemen, and the army people are there. The teachers have, balanced everything, balanced their family, balanced their children, balanced their work, and then every day in the morning they will sit in there in front of their laptops or the computer and say, "Good morning, children, how are you?" and ready to take the class. So I think that was very well mentioned by uh, uh, Ashu from India regarding that teachers rose up to the situation, and how teachers made videos and backed it up by phone calls and the government reaching out through radio, television, and different apps. Regarding the CBSE has restructured the curriculum by about 30%, 30 to 35%, which we came to know, and that is very good initiative. And about the assessment, the open book exams. Yes, why not have the books? And it's just how intelligently we can frame a question to get, they can open the books and then do a little bit of research and then give us the assessment which can be done, and rightly mentioned that we need to empower the teachers. The teachers know exactly who is what. Let's not just base it on what they know and what they write in a 1 hour or 1.5 hour or a 3 hour exams. The teachers intuition, because I also teach and I know exactly, even if I don't have to take a formal exams, I know what I can grade, as to how they have performed during a particular time, whether they have been very interactive in the class, whether they have missed class, whether they've given assignment. So that was really well summarized by Ashu from India regarding empowering teachers and history. We are history in the making. 2020 would be a year that everybody would remember, as 2015 is a year that we all remember as the biggest earthquake that rocked Nepal. And 2020 is something that has rocked the entire world, entire globe with the pandemic. So it's history in the making. And whatever we do will be something, a policy level, a discussion, a way of doing things in the new normal. And finally, Kumar sir, all in all, he found that the situations and the experience are very, very similar, that we need to trust our teachers and not wait for the government to do something for us, because we as leaders need to go ahead and work it out. And that has been very, very interesting discussion. And I could see that there are now 52 participants here. We've not been able to stream live, but hopefully we will be able to stream live. So a wonderful initiative by Niroj Maharjan, a good friend, a fellow principal I've known, and a fellow Toastmasters as well, with this initiative of getting 3 eminent educationists from UK, from India, and from Nepal to model this. It is a very, very challenge. It is a challenging task for us at hand, and we should not only think of the affluent schools that we are in, but also think about the schools where there has been no communication, where there isn't a device where they can see into, and children have been out of the schools since the last 6 months, and whether they have completely left, whether the education level has plunged down. That is also something that we need to think about and be very sensitive about. So this is a very, very important issue that Niroj sir has raised, and I would like to thank everyone for your inputs. Over to you, Niroj sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chandrayaan sir. Thank you, everyone. I hope this discussion will at least raise a voice to everyone who are in the education field, at least to feel that no child should be left from the education. Every child should be included into the learning process. We talked about different modalities, we talked about different evaluation system, and hope our consolidated effort, our cohort, our education, all these practices, we will definitely will help in this pandemic situation to bring all the children into the education stream and help them to become the global citizens. Once again, thank you all the panelists, Mr. Paul from UK, Ms. Ashu from India, and Ms. Pravina from Nepal, and similarly our commentators Chandrayaan sir and Kumar Thapa sir. Thank you very much for your wonderful time here, for wonderful sharing here. Sayonara, Jaijan, bye-bye. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Bye bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
It was nice to connect. And one last concluding statement that I just want to say, that this event has proved that we are all in this together. There is no country which is isolated. There is no school which is isolated. We are all in this together, and this proves